Hello and welcome to IMS today. Today we are thrilled to have Mr. Shailesh Goel, HR leader, as our guest, who believes that working with people is like working in a lab 24/7. Mr. Goel brings with us 20 years of invaluable experience in the field of HR. It's an honor to have you with us today, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Anjali.
So, firstly, I would like to ask what are the most important responsibilities of an HR leader in today's business environment?
I think this is a very powerful question you ask, Anjali. In today's economy, as we see, there are businesses that actually thrive on talent and people. Knowledge workers that most of these organizations deploy are those who can think creatively, deploy their strategic mindset, and bring solutions to different problems that the organizations are facing. And so the responsibilities of an HR leader is really about building the business. As is said, organizations build people and people build businesses, right? So I believe that the role of HR is becoming very important in today's scenario, particularly in knowledge-driven industries, IT, consulting, and many more other organized industries if you talk about. At a high level, HR is responsible to make sure that you're hiring the best fit talent for the organization. It's not about hiring the best, it's about hiring the best fit, right? That's very important. And we all know how difficult it is to really attract and select the best fit talent for your organization. So hiring is a top priority for HR leaders and organizations alike. Once you've hired the right fit people for your organization, you have to make sure that these individuals are productive as soon as possible. They remain committed to the organization and they are engaged throughout their tenure. So engagement, learning and development, and retention becomes an important part of their job. At the same time, there is something called a culture, right, which is the operating system of an organization. So HR leaders play a big part in ensuring that the culture of the organization really stays positive. And hence, towards this, all the different policies, practices, systems of HR have a big impact. In a nutshell, HR leaders drive the success of an organization.
That's a really insightful answer, sir. Next, I would like to know what are the most essential skills a student should have if they want to pursue a career in HR.
Sure. Again, an important question. So I like to divide this into two parts, right? There's something which is called domain skills or knowledge, right? So if you're pursuing a career in HR, you got to understand the fundamentals of HR, right? Like the basics of HRM, the basics of performance management, recruitment, selection, right, engagement, and many other such aspects. But at the same time, you cannot pick all these things at one go, right? You have to learn them over a period of years. So that's a good segue into the second part of my answer, which I call as the non-functional, the non-technical skills, which I actually called as meta skills. And so meta skills become very important. And according to them, to become successful in HR, a few will stand out. First is, learnability is very important, right? So your functional skills are changing a lot, employee expectations are changing a lot. So you got to always be learning. Whenever you make a change, you enter a new organization, a new industry, context is very different, right? So learnability is very important. Being in HR means that you are being fair to people, right? And fairness comes from humility, right? It means that, okay, you're willing to understand the situation in totality, not jumping to conclusions, being objective about your decision making, right? So those things stand out. Communication plays a very important role because your work in HR revolves a lot around internal, external communication. So all of those things become really important. At the same time, as an HR leader, you got to understand the business, right? How the business is changing, evolving, and having a strategic mindset are some of the other things, right? The list actually goes on, but I have to pick up 5 things. These will stand out, Anjali.
That's a really informative answer. Students pursuing this career will really look up to that. Next and lastly, I'm gonna ask you about, is there any gap between pursuing a career and working in the industry?
Yes. Unfortunately, there is a lot of gap, right? And which we call as the campus to corporate gap. And to be fair, life in a college, right, or life in an academic institution like a school or college is very different from how, the life in a corporate environment is. And to put it simply, when we are in a school or college, there is only one right answer. In corporate, there isn't one right answer, right? So while life is black and white in academic institutions, in real life, actually, there are many, many shades of gray, and hence there is a lot of gap. Students are, when they enter into corporate, they are not able to visualize or understand or realize that there can be many different solutions to one problem. There can be many different ways of thinking about a problem, and hence there's a lot of gap that happens because of that. Of course, that kind of gets bridged over a period of time as those young professionals gain more experience and they are able to think about a problem in totality. But in the beginning, there is a big gap. Also, there is a lot of gap in terms of communication, right? Unfortunately, in most academic institutions, right, communication is taught as a subject, but according to me, communication is a meta skill. And communication comes in handy in different ways, in the way you ask questions, in the way you place a request, in the way you write an email, in the way you speak to your audiences or speak in a meeting. So communication stands out as a major gap area, which again kind of gets fulfilled through different learning and development programs that the organizations have for their professionals, young professionals, and tenured professionals. Yeah, to so I think there is a gap that gets bridged through different programs like campus to corporate programs and ongoing learning and development programs. But just because of the way academia is structured and the way the expectations are there in a corporate, yes, there exists a lot of gap.
Thank you so much, sir, for these insightful answers and giving us your precious time. I, Anjali Tomar, with camera person Atamaj Solanki, IMS today.